The spaceport of Relara Prime was a chaotic jumble of neon, smoke, and impatient travelers. Ships of every size and origin docked and departed in a blur of lights, with automated cranes swinging cargo containers over the bustling concourses. But for Cale Mercer, it was a different kind of chaos, one that tugged at the edges of his loneliness. He had been a freighter pilot for nearly a decade, flying trade routes that no one else wanted. His crew long gone, retired or reassigned, and his family scattered across the core worlds, Cale had grown accustomed to solitude. He kept company only with the hum of his ship, the glow of control panels, and occasional communications with port authorities that rarely lasted more than a few minutes. That day, though, something, or rather, someone, changed everything. Cale had stepped off his ship to take care of repairs and pick up supplies for the next leg of his route. The port was crowded, but one corner near the secondary docking bay caught his eye. A small group had gathered around a crate, murmuring and pointing, curiosity and disgust written on their faces. Inside the crate was a young alien woman. Her skin shimmered faintly in shades of lavender and silver, her hair a soft cascade of platinum that gleamed under the port lights. Her eyes, large and violet, looked out with a mix of fear and defiance. She wore a ceremonial robe, torn and dusty, adorned with delicate metallic embroidery that spoke of noble heritage. "Too old," someone muttered from the crowd. "No one wants her anymore." Another shook their head. "Abandoned. Lucky for anyone willing to take her." Cale frowned. He had no idea what species she was, some variant of the Helieri, perhaps, but he could see the shame and humiliation in her posture. She wasn't afraid of him, nor was she desperate, yet her hands clutched at the sides of the crate as if the world outside might swallow her whole. He walked closer, and she raised an eyebrow at him, cautious but curious. "You're going to buy me?" she asked, her voice carrying a melodic cadence that sounded almost like song. I don't know," Cale said honestly. "I wasn't planning on buying anyone." "You should," she said, voice firm, her golden eyes locking on his. "I am of age. Of status. And yet, left to rot at a dock like discarded goods." Cale's chest tightened. He had never dealt with anything like this before, no AlienBride markets, no ceremonial sales. But something in her words, her tone, stirred a strange mixture of protectiveness and curiosity in him. "How much?" he asked cautiously. "2 credits, she said flatly. "No more." Cale stared. 2 credits. That was nothing. He fished the coins from his pocket and dropped them into the crate's terminal. A soft chime confirmed the transfer. "You're mine now?" he asked. "I am," she said. Her lips curved into a faint, sarcastic smile. "But do not expect me to be obedient." The moment Cale hoisted the crate onto his shoulders, trouble began. A group of burly men appeared, their uniforms marked with the insignia of her clan. "Return her at once," one barked. "You have no right to claim her." Cale froze. She's mine now?" "She is property of the Helieri High House," another shouted. The alien woman rolled her eyes. "Property? That is what they call me. Laughable." Cale didn't argue. He ran. And she, against every expectation he had, moved with him, gracefully vaulting from the crate into the safety of the narrow corridors, keeping pace with his human strength without effort. "This way," he yelled, weaving through the crowd, dodging blaster shots that whizzed past him. "Do not think this is your adventure," she said sharply. "I am capable of defending myself." "I can see that," Cale panted, "but you'll have to forgive me if I carry you anyway." They reached his ship, a small freighter docked at the edge of the bay. Cale slammed the airlock controls and pulled the ship into orbit before he finally let himself breathe. Once inside, she stared at him with sharp amusement. "You call this protection?" "It's protection," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "Though I admit, You might have saved me more than I saved you. She shook her head, brushing a strand of platinum hair from her eyes. You are a strange human. Foolish, perhaps, but not unkind. Kale chuckled. I'll take that as a compliment. Over the following days, Kale learned more about her. Her name was Lyria, a Helieri noble who had been considered too old for traditional marriage in her society, 25 cycles, older than most brides ever allowed, considered past her prime for political unions. Her family had abandoned her, leaving her vulnerable at the docks as a final, humiliating form of exile. And you chose me, she asked quietly one evening, as they navigated asteroid fields on their way to a neutral planet. Kale shrugged. I didn't want you left behind. Besides, he hesitated. I don't believe in too old or anyone being unwanted. Her violet eyes studied him, softening slightly. Then perhaps. I was wrong about humans. But peace was fleeting. The Helieri clan quickly discovered her absence. Drones and enforcers pursued Kale's freighter across 3 star systems. Each encounter tested both of them, Kale's human ingenuity and piloting skill against Lyria's agility and latent energy abilities, powers she had been trained to hide for politics rather than war. In one close encounter, a boarding party breached the ship's hull. Lyria moved like liquid, disabling the intruders with precise bursts of energy, throwing them into walls and holding them incapacitated until Kale could lock them into the containment bay. See, she said, panting. You almost got us killed. Almost. Kale said, glaring. We survived, didn't we? She gave a small smile. Barely. Their partnership, forged in chaos, grew into trust. By the time they reached the neutral planet, Lyria's initial sarcasm and pride had softened, revealing a warmth and vulnerability she had never shown anyone. Kale, in turn, found himself fascinated not just by her beauty and strength but by her wit, intelligence, and courage. The culmination of their journey came at the Temple of Stars, a neutral sacred site where marriage could be recognized without interference from any clan. Lyria insisted upon it, despite her initial reluctance, and Kale agreed, understanding that some rules even for humans needed to be respected. They stood before the officiant, an ancient being of stone and living crystal, its eyes glowing faintly as it spoke in a language older than the Helieri themselves. Do you, Kale Mercer, take Lyria of the Helieri, to be your partner, your ally, and your equal, regardless of lineage, age, or expectation? I do, Kale said without hesitation, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotion in his chest. And do you, Lyria, take Kale Mercer, to share in your life, your battles, and your joys, beyond the dictates of tradition and expectation? I do, she said, her hand finding his, holding it tightly. The officiant's glow intensified, bathing them in shimmering light. The energy of the temple resonated, sealing their vows with a power older than any civilization. Outside, the galaxy might have still considered Lyria too old or undesirable, but in that moment, none of it mattered. She had a partner who saw her worth, and he had found someone whose strength and courage could match his own. Years later, Kale and Lyria became legends not just for surviving the political machinations of the Helieri high houses, but for the story of how a lonely human and an abandoned alien bride defied expectation, forged a bond in the chaos of the stars, and proved that love and loyalty could exist beyond the rules of society. Lyria, once abandoned at a dock, now stood proudly by Kale's side, their ship cutting through the cosmos, free from the chains of tradition, unafraid, and together. And whenever someone asked Kale how he found her, he would smile, shrug, and say, "She was no one's bride, until I chose her. And that choice changed everything."